Hello, everyone. Welcome to Forum Friday. Today, we will speak with Mark on what's going on in the forum and what's happening in the Bakerpedia community. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Um,
Yay.
there's been a flurry of signups after the seminar, but we'll talk a little bit about that after.
Yeah, actually, it
Um,
was great
and
yesterday. Yeah.
yeah, so we have one is a follow-up going on. The conversation is continuing with Janie from Japan on the apple carrot cake in a tin can. I
I
did a
love that idea.
I
Cake in
think
a
it's
can. I
phenomenal. I
love
think
it.
I kudos to her for being an innovator, and I think it'll be really great because
So, what's her problem?
she's trying to make a cake that has a nice texture, a nice eating quality, to be able to and looking at whether to bake it in the tin can or to retort it in the tin can. And I don't think the retorting will give her enough cook. Um, but wanting to make sure that the cake is not so, what she was getting is very heavy and dense and more like pudding than like cake. And so what she'll be doing is baking it in these tin cans, which is the main kill step, but then to kill off any spores that could otherwise grow within the can that could
Mm.
cause botulism, it needs to be retorted. But that's only 120 C for like 4 minutes. So that's
So
not
you're
bad.
saying we're going she wants to deposit it in a can, bake
Yeah,
and retort.
and retort. Yeah.
I want to see that
So
product.
yeah, she's tested it at a university. Unfortunately for her, the closest university is like a 4-hour drive. She doesn't
Oh,
get to go there that often.
hey,
Um,
innovation should never stop anyone.
well, and I commend her. She decided, well, she's going to order a pressure cooker. So she's going
Yes.
to use, and I was chatting with a colleague of mine from the Research Chefs Association, and it is a good emulator for small quantity to simulate the retort. And so she's going to do that in the pressure cooker and try that out. And so I got a nice light cake by emulsifying the eggs with the sugar and the oil to almost make like a mayonnaise, and then mixing in the milk and the carrots and the apple, and folding in the flour and the leavening last. And it makes a beautiful batter that would deposit really well. It has a nice flow to it. It's not too thick. It's not too runny. I don't have a Boswick to measure it, but it looks good just based on experience.
Hmm.
And then they baked up nice. I filled the rings about 3/4 full, and they rise up to the top really nicely. And so it makes a nice three, three 75 millimeter by 30 millimeter cylinder. So is what I got in the rings I did. And so I'm going to be posting that update on in the forum. And then the other thing we have is yeah, millimeter, not inches.
Yeah, I have millimeters here. Okay, I was
so,
just like,
so seven
okay.
and a half centimeters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
7.5 centimeters. Yeah,
That's
which
that's
is
how long
about
it is.
3 inches round,
Here's my face.
and just a little over an inch tall, right? So is what I got the rings that I have.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
This much.
yeah, my European background and then in Canada, so I'm so happy everything's back in the
I always have two systems going on here: the inches and the centimeter, and the Fahrenheit and the Celsius.
Well, I actually I bought a micrometer at the hardware store. You could switch it between inches and millimeters. It's life easy. But we have a question from
No,
Randy
wait. So, what's your solution for her?
that she needs to whip the eggs. She needs
Ah,
to
whip the eggs. Put
whip
in
the
more
eggs
air.
and then just adjust whether if she wants it less moist. It's very wet. If she wants it less moist, then just simply cut back on the carrots and the apple.
Yeah.
She wants the apple first anyway, so the easy thing would probably be to cut back on the carrots, and then that'll just sort of help improve the texture a little bit. And
Is
um,
this the first time you've seen a cake in a can?
it's the first time I've seen cake in a can. Yes,
That's
there
amazing. This is
is
the first time I've heard of a cake in a can.
there
That
is
would be so awesome for camping, for ready-to-eat meals that the
Yep,
military needs.
that's
So
what this is
many more
targeted.
applications as well.
This is targeted at 1 year plus shelf life,
Amazing.
for disaster recovery,
Yeah.
because everything that the people get in disaster recovery is savory, and maybe we should get Jose Andreas to help her promote it, because with this World Central Kitchen, they'd love to have something easy to serve sweet to all the people, to give them
That can be
happiness,
done. Just
to
let
give
us
them something
know.
to make you happy.
That can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get her connected.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's the whipping is the main solution right now, and then just adjusting her water content otherwise, because the apple adds a lot of water to it as well.
Absolutely.
And
I'm so interested. I'm so interested.
yeah,
Awesome.
it'll be real, and it'll be healthy too, because it'll be a lot of fiber. It's interesting, very interesting concept.
Fiber, taste, taste is really important when people eat ready to eat meals. I mean, it's a lot of
Hmm.
blandness to it. Something like that would just brighten someone's day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the
Yeah.
whole idea, is to give everybody, in a tough situation, a little bit something pleasant to enjoy life, and get improve their quality of life for a moment. Right?
I love it. I love it.
And
All right. So what's next?
so then there's Randy is talking about, he calls it a flour corrector. And so he is looking for, in terms of whether it would be a cost savings to replace ascorbic acid with glucose oxidase, or which would be the most cost effective, is what he's asking.
Reasonable question.
Glucose oxidase being an enzyme, I don't know the cost of it, but I'm assuming it might be more expensive.
But lower dosage, much lower
Yeah,
dosage.
lower dosage, right?
Mhm.
I've not worked with it as much. Ascorbic is such a reliable dough oxidizer. It's what I'm mostly familiar with. Um, I don't know. I think that the oxidase might be just a little bit more temperamental.
Absolutely.
And so it's something to consider. Is that, I mean, I would go with something reliable and is well known, unless it's a unique and specific application that he needs. And so we'll pipe up on that in the forum, and that's the main activity at the
Yeah,
moment.
we should get a miller to this discussion, because I don't think too many mills dose enzymes as much as
No.
ascorbic acid. And really, from the dosing aspect, I mean, you're a miller, you've been in the mill. You can't really control the temperature and the moisture after the milling.
Yes, and the
You know.
small doses are very hard to control. Plus, the
Yep.
other thing with enzymes so often is that, as you mentioned, with the environment, they are temperature and moisture sensitive a lot of times. And so then you have other issues, in terms of, you have to dose twice as much so that there's enough of it still alive by the time the customer gets it. So that
Right.
adds expense to it, right?
Correct.
And so from that aspect, it may not be as attractive solution in that way.
That's true.
Yeah, and what was the other thing I was just thinking on that? But yeah, the viability, the life of it, and it's gone. So there was something else I thought of, and it's gone. Right?
Sorry, I had to take a drink of water.
But yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, you can work with the. Oh, that's what I was thinking. There was another question actually that came up. As a gentleman, I've redirected that. Hopefully, he will get an opportunity to post himself in the forum. He actually contacted me over LinkedIn, and he was asking about why brown bread some of his brown bread is collapsing sometimes. And that goes back to what we were talking about in the seminar. That's bake up. That is when it's because particularly with whole wheat and multigrain breads, the brands and all of these other non-protein things, they're holding on to water, and so you have to make sure you bake those out completely and hit your target temperatures and stuff. Otherwise, your structure's not set enough, and then they start to shrink on the top. Sometimes they'll shrink in from the sides as well. Right?
Yeah, and that could be one issue. Another issue I've seen happen before is because brown bread, let's explain brown bread a little bit more, because I think that's a South African term. Is that correct?
It may be. I didn't ask where he was
I
from.
think it's Europe. Brown bread pretty much means whole wheat bread,
Yes, yeah.
right? So whole
Generally
wheat bread
speaking. Yeah.
has lots of sometimes people put gluten in there, right? To
Hmm.
help,
Hmm.
manipulate the bran deformation. And they sometimes someone puts too much gluten, it pops so much in the oven and then it shrinks,
And then it
right?
falls.
So in that aspect, too much gluten if you're putting
That's a
gluten.
possibility. Yep. Yep.
I've also seen a lot of issue with not depanning fast enough. When you
Yes.
leave your loaf in the pan to cool, that's when the sidewalls keyhole.
Well, and
So
I also suggested to him part of it could be that with a lot of brown breads, because the bran is slightly bitter, so you tend to add a lot of sugar to those breads. So when you have more sugar, it browns faster. So if the
yeah.
temperature is too high and you're baking to color and pulling it out too early, then you're basically getting an undercook as well in that sense.
Hmm.
So that it you have to watch a lot of these things, like you said, the gluten, the sugar. If you're adding extra gluten, also the mix time. Make sure that it's fully developed, it's properly developed, and then you're baking and depanning, right? So it's never one answer with baking.
Never, never. That's why it's a forum discussion. So yeah, is that everything for the forum?
That's it for the forum, yeah. And then
That's
we just have
awesome.
fantastic
Hey, I wanted to thank you for coming on yesterday and help instructing the seminar on
yeah.
shelf life extension of bread.
Yes,
It
it was
was
fantastic. You did
it
an
was
amazing job.
awesome.
We had
We originally had a presentation that was for 20 minutes. And that 20 minutes turned into 1 hour and 30 minutes. How did that happen, Mark?
no, you get a bunch of chin waggers together, because we are engaged, and because I think the one thing I really noticed a lot that I enjoyed about this seminar is that not only that we get good attendance, but the people are engaged. They're asking questions,
Yep.
and you take the time to see that as many of those questions can be addressed in the live. I mean, we only maybe addressed 10% of them, because there
There
was
was so many questions. I swear,
and it was
one of
great.
our slide was meant for 5 minutes, was on there for like 20 minutes
Yeah.
because of all the questions.
So it's a nice problem to have, as the saying goes. I mean, it shows again that it's needed. What you are doing, what we are doing with Bakerpedia is needed, and people wouldn't be coming and asking questions if there wasn't a need. And so that is, kudos. Happy
Yeah, thank you.
6 years to Bakerpedia. It's
Right.
incredible.
And we couldn't have done it without our awesome sponsors,
Yes,
right?
especially.
So Fresh and Top Taste Onions, which we talked about the antimicrobial properties of onions during the class, and you baked with some of them.
Yep.
You're running shelf life tests with them,
Yep.
and the reason why we work with sponsors is because we want to bring new and innovative thoughts and ideas to our users who are having these problems. Mold is a huge issue, and I saved my samples from yesterday. I just want to show you again, like I did this testing yesterday. This was something that was completely molded. This is 29 days, right? And this is, the packaging that So Fresh provided. This one's packaged at room temperature slicing, which is 95, and this was packaged at 135 degrees Fahrenheit. So this was sweating when I put it in the package, and it's still not molding.
That's incredible.
So can you imagine, Mark, the impact this has on the production system?
Yes, it's going to revolutionize things. It's gonna help bring bakers back into the black for a change, I think, too. I mean, that's been the biggest problem. I mean, I've attended so many of the baking conferences in Chicago, and that's one of the things that keeps coming up all the time is spoilage, waste reduction, and sanitation. And so this is going to help in all of those areas. Right? This is going to be incredible.
I'm eating 29-day-old bread.
Now we need magic enzymes and good
I
fat.
forgot to add enzymes in there. That's why it's so stale. Maybe Lynn should think about such things. But taste is great. There's no moldy taste. It's still edible after 29 days. It just needs enzymes. But Bill from So Fresh also pointed out one important aspect of this packaging, and it is a packaging technology, is that you can avoid the freezer for your distribution. Can you explain that a little bit more, Mark?
As well, that is for one. When you freeze, even with enzyme technology, you're going to deteriorate the product some because the water expands in the freezing process and it breaks the cells, and so then when it thaws out, those cells have been disrupted and it changes the texture and everything else. The other thing is, of course, is in terms of mold, is that the moisture that is trying to evaporate from the bread in the cooling process as you package it is now going to be frozen. And you have this freeze-thaw situation so that when it thaws out, it is now returns to water, and then the water that has frozen in the cells and broken the cells, that becomes free water. And so that's what the mold needs to basically grow, is that moisture, and it provides that. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is huge cost savings, because to have to freeze and truck refrigerated or frozen is an enormous expense. You're looking at a minimum, and I think that Bill was very conservative with his estimate.
Very conservative.
He was suggesting about 50 cents a loaf. I think it's probably a lot higher than that. And especially in the gluten-free industry,
oh my God,
to make it huge.
They're gonna do a killing in the gluten-free industry
because that's been a big part of the problem. And then you can also have clear best before date labeling on your product. I can remember going into a grocery store with a customer who was looking at some of their own product that was gluten-free, and we in the grocery store we looked at it on the shelf, and it was already about 3 weeks past the best before date. Well, the reason for that is because when the store brings it in, they freeze it. It comes in frozen, and they freeze it, and then they put it out as they need it. So the customer doesn't have a true best before date. So whereas if you are going to get this longer shelf life, like 40 days, and then we just have some nice clean enzymes to help modify the saline and stuff like that, you're golden. And it saves on cost. It gives a better product.
Yeah.
Better information.
And they also dump a bunch of enzymes, for gluten-free products to handle the freeze thaw. Mm-hmm. So I think you can get some savings that's that part too by cutting down your enzymes, because you don't need to freeze and thaw anymore.
I realize my microphone's a mile away.
Oh my gosh! Now I hear you so well. Yeah. So our next big review is going to be August 29th, I believe, the last Thursday of the month. And we are going to continue this discussion on shelf life of cake products.
Excellent.
Yeah, just because, I originally had, one session to address breads and cake, but then I look at our material. I was just like, this is too much. Mm-hmm. No one's going to sit through 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So I broke them up. So I invited you to help me with the bread, and then I'm inviting Richard to help me with the cake. So perfect. Hopefully within these two sessions, people will be taken care of. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll create a whole new category of questions yet, too.
I'm sure it will. All right, Mark, thanks for coming on today on my Friday forum. And We will continue all our bread questions from yesterday's seminar onto the forum. So if we didn't answer any of your questions on there, it's not because we ignored you, it's because we ran out of time, and we would love to continue the discussions on our forums. Okay?
Excellent.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Happy Friday. Have a great
weekend.
weekend.